The Secret Life of Pets is a movie by Illumination Studios, who also did Despicable Me, Minions, and a few other movies that I didn't really care for, like Hop. Despicable Me I really liked, Minions I utterly hated. Um, but I have a really good feeling about this movie compared to just Illumination movies. I don't think it's going to be some pinnacle of animated movies, but even today, I saw some really, really, really shitty animated movies today. Like Food Fight and Ratatouille, which were like, Ratatouille was a mockbuster, sort of, and fucking Food Fight is just the worst animated movie like I've seen so far. So I have put myself in a position to really enjoy this movie. I like the concept of it. It reminds me a lot of Toy Story, and I'm not gonna say it's a rip-off of Toy Story, because even Toy Story is a rip-off of The Brave Little Toaster. And I just, after the fucking awfulness of Ghostbusters, I just want to have a good time with the movie, because I had to take a break. It wore me out with how shitty it was. So please don't let me down, Secret Life of Pets.
I know nothing about this movie, which excites me the most, because usually when I go see movies, I know at least one thing about the movie, but literally I was hit up like 30 minutes ago to go review this movie, so I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm just want to have fun with this.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for is just comedic effect for me, because it's an animation. I feel like all animation should be funny, so.
I mean, the movies I saw today were utter shit, so this, I'm probably gonna be laughing my ass off with this movie
Oh yeah, and I'll try and film a little bit inside the movie theater.
again.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have nothing to lose. What are they gonna do?
Well,
Tickle my ass?
it's 5:12 and the previews are just about to end, so we will catch you guys in a bit. You know, I actually kind of enjoyed it more than I thought I would. That's not to say it's like a perfect movie, but I did have somewhat of a good time with this movie.
It had its moments for sure.
I think with all the less than great animated movies this year, like fucking Ratchet and Clank, Angry Birds, and the god awful Norm of the North, I think this one's a step up from that. But it's nowhere near the level of Zootopia or Finding Dory. It's just kind of like in the middle ground, like not good nor bad. I think it's more good than it is bad.
Yeah, this is my first animated film of the year, actually going to theaters to see, and I had a decent time, but the movie just really wasn't for me. I feel like if I were to see that movie and enjoy it, I would have to be going with, if I were to have kids or something.
Yeah, this
or-
movie is.
It's like a first date kind of thing, to be honest. Like,
I would not take a girl to see that for a date. I would probably take her to see Finding Dory, but this movie is definitely more for kids, I think, and pet owners, like, and like people that'll get enjoyment out of like pet stereotypes.
who is the production company?
Illumination.
Okay.
Yeah, I think where Despicable Me was more for family, this movie is more for kids, and I think that is a little bit of a negativity I have towards the movie, is that someone like me can enjoy, like, you know, a more sophisticated aspect of it, but then again, it's fucking pets, so is that really something to complain about?
Yeah, some films do a good job of making the film oriented towards all audiences instead of only a specific group of people. And like with most movies, like it's got like the action aspect, which is for people who want to have a good time. Most animated films can have its own different aspect, but usually all animated films are usually for kids. And there's an animated movie coming out August 12th, the Sausage Party. I think that's going to be a break in the film industry for animated movies oriented to a different group of people, which will be for adults or teenagers, and it's not going to be for kids, which I think is great because there's not many new animated films that are out there like that. So when I was watching this movie, I'm like, wow, that's a big difference. Like, I feel like there's going to be a big change.
Let's talk about the things that I liked with this movie. Obviously, the entire beginning where it shows like, you know, what the pets do when the owners aren't there, the entire premise of the movie. It's like this montage at the beginning. That was surprisingly really, really entertaining to see. Like, just like the animals, you know, like, you know, the dog barking at the squirrel, and like how they're talking in English, like, but it's like still, you know, pet language to humans. And I was hoping that that would be the case, like they would communicate with each other, but it would just sound like animal noise to humans. It was really entertaining. I think the animation is pretty great. I think it's some of the best Illumination work. I mean, Illumination does a good job animating, but I think this one is a step up from Despicable Me and Minions especially. I think the voice acting is pretty great. Less for one person, and I will save that for a second. I think the situational moments in the movie, like what they have to work with based off of script, they do a fine job. And just the moral of the story, like, you know, respecting your brother, I think that really, we've seen the premise of that done over and over, but it's done in a fresh way here, and I gotta give the film props for that.
What do you mean when you say it's done in a fresh way? Do you mean just the writing's a little bit newer, or is it just because like the animation is more?
Let me compare this to a movie that Tarek hated, and that we walked out of because Tarek hated it.
What?
Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Trip, had this exact premise where...
Was I there too?
Yeah, you were there. Where, you know, the Chipmunks get this stepbrother, and they have to hate each other, but then they grow to like each other. You know, that premise has been done to shit, but since they're pets, it's done, like, with such situational moments and, like, the way that they are characters, and it just creates a lot more unique moments for the movie to express the message, where, like, they're in, like, a sausage factory, for example, and because their dogs, their scent is attracted to sausage, and just moments like that really make it fresh, whereas Alvin and the Chipmunks Road Trip really was, you know, by the books 101 comedy.
I wasn't that entertained, to be honest. Like, what I was thinking the whole movie was just like, I've seen all of this done before. Like, I really liked the animation in the movie, which kind of kept me zoned in to the plot, but the plot was just basic. The writing was just so basic. I liked the voice acting. It was great, but I mean, you could predict everything that was going to happen. I mean, which I guess most people can expect when they go to see these kind of movies, but like, I thought I was going to see something different where I would just be like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. But I mean, there's just nothing, I don't want to say, like, it was interesting, but there's nothing that just caught my attention and be like, wow, that was really good.
I think that's a nice segue into what I didn't like about the movie. Kevin Hart, I think he's a funny dude. I can only enjoy Kevin Hart in small doses, like in Central Intelligence, where he's a very honed in character. He tones it down. This is just Kevin Hart, like, on crack, and it's very annoying. Like, I hated Kevin Hart in this movie. Like, he could have done the voice of the rabbit, but you just have his usual screaming antics, and it's just very annoying in my opinion. And that is the only voice actor I had a problem with. I think everyone else did a good job. I just cannot stand Kevin Hart as the rabbit in this movie.
They just probably used him because he's really hot right now, like, out in the public. Like, he's in a lot of movies, he has a lot of attention going on, so maybe they just casted him to bring in more views.
I just think,
you see that in a lot of movies these days.
Yeah, I just think, like, the fucking Minions, they're only good in small doses, and Kevin Hart is only good in small doses. And I mean, I've seen things he's great in. Central Intelligence, I thought he was funnier than anything that I've seen him in, because he wasn't, you know, screaming. He wasn't, like, all over the place. He was very toned down, and I think that's the best way to do Kevin Hart. You know, he can have his, like, yelling and stuff for his stand-up, but then, like, voice acting wise, it just got very, very annoying. And going off of what Matt said, the movie is very predictable. Like, I saw everything that was going to come. Even though it's done in a fresh way, it still doesn't change the fact that it's predictable.
Yeah, and going back to the Kevin Hart thing, I think it was just when they were writing for whatever the rabbit's name was, or for that character specifically, I think they wanted someone to be really loud and screaming for kids' enjoyment, and I think Kevin Hart did okay with what he was given.
Is there honestly anything to spoil with this movie? Because, I mean, like, the trailer doesn't show everything, but what isn't shown is predictable right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, like, he already said the moral of the story. which
Yeah,
is like-
and you got the moral of the story from the
and
trailer.
so you can kind of tell what's going to happen at the beginning, where you have the main conflict is the dogs not liking each other but going through this day-long journey while their owners are gone, and finding a way to connect with each other and learn to live with each other, which is kind of weird because it was all in one day.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can have that much story in one day and adventure and to be realistic, but I mean, it is an animation, so.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with Matt on that. That was one of the things I did like about it. I liked how it was only one day. It showed one day in the Secret Life of Pets. So you can imagine, like, what a year would be or something. Like, the whole movie is just the course of one day. And I really, 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 really like that. I don't know why. It's just...
There was just so much story, though, like, for it to be in one day, and a lot of traveling.
Well, I mean, they only travel... Like, the whole
Maybe-
place is in New York.
Maybe it just seems different because, like, it's gonna sound weird, but because they're smaller, and maybe it just seems like things are happening more quickly for them than it does for humans, but...
Well, I mean, I guess the movie does take place, but the main course for the movie is one day. Because, like, you have a little bit at the beginning that's, like, a few days, maybe.
Yeah, but it just feels like it should last, like, in our world, probably, like, a few days or a couple days, like most movies.
Maybe. Yeah, really the only thing to, like, spoil in this movie is that Kevin Hart and his gang of animals, like, the pig that has, like, the tattoos, they were all abandoned by their owners, which... Like, I like how each animal had an interesting way that they were abandoned. Like, the pig with the tattoos, like, he was owned by a tattoo artist, and the tattoo artist would practice on him, and then they ran out of space on the pig, so they got rid of him. Like, they're just animals like that. Like, and each one is unique, and that's what I liked seeing. But, again, it's very predictable, like, what their character motivations are. So it's not really a spoil, because I don't think there's really anything to spoil in this movie.
I'm just gonna go off topic for a little bit, but when I see animated films, any kind of animated film, I like to look for realism in the movie. I also like to look at the fictional aspect, because that's what makes animated films special, because you can do different things that you can't do in like a live action movie or something. But it was really unrealistic, in my opinion, because all the stuff the animals were doing, like
there was a
driving
scene
and,
where they're like on a crane and then they're driving.
yeah, they
a car.
just caused probably millions of dollars in property damage, like, throughout the whole movie, and it's like,
Yeah.
they never talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's very nitpicking, but, like, again, that's something I did notice too.
I don't know, it just seemed, and like, I'm gonna go off, like, I'm not gonna really spoil it, but there's these two characters that are, like, the Pound, I guess, like, they're,
The like the dog hunters.
yeah, they're like animal control.
Mm-hmm.
And they're used throughout the film, I guess, for comedic effect, because every time they show up, the animals either cause harm to them or they make them crash their car, and the animals can do what they do to either escape or get other animals out. It's just like, why bring them in, like, constantly? The same two people, like, why not bring in other animal control people? Or I don't know, it was just weird. And they were like traveling throughout the whole city, and they all happened to be in the same place at the same time, and they all eventually found each other with no leads, which I thought was,
Yeah, that was one of the.
yeah. And they showed up instantly with a phone call, like, at one part in the movie, and it's like,
No, like some of their rules, like, of the movie, like, they establish, like, they do all their antics when humans aren't around. They break that rule, like, a lot of times in the movie. At least I think they were trying to set that up as a rule,
But like they never ran in with their own owners. They just ran into random people.
Yeah, like I mean, there's a scene where they disguise as a woman, and like they're obviously animals, and then the people get freaked out. I don't know if like the movie broke its own rule or like.
Yeah.
And this movie is really not the secret life of pets. Like the only secret things that they do are at the very beginning during that montage. The movie is mostly just the life of pets, because there's nothing secret about what they do. Because a lot of the movie is just pet stereotype. Like the dog's barking at the squirrel. That's not a secret thing a pet does. That's what a pet does, you know? I feel like I'm talking way too much about this movie.
There's just a lot to talk about with this movie.
You want to give your final thoughts on it before we rate it?
I mean, I feel like I've said everything I need to say. Like, if you want to go see this movie, I would recommend bringing your kids or younger viewers.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's not awful. It's not that boring. Like, you won't be tempted to like go on your phone or anything. Like, I looked at my watch a few times just because I'm like, all right, it just keeps dragging along. But I mean, I couldn't find the main conflict in the movie because they all seem to have about the same tension.
Well, the main conflict of the movie was that
Like at the very end, like there's something that happens that's a little detrimental, but I mean also throughout the whole movie there's conflicts just like that.
well, no, those are like sub conflicts, but like the main thing was Max is trying to get rid of Doug,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what causes them to get lost.
Yeah, I mean, or the main climax is what I'm talking about at the end, because like there's a lot of rising action in the movie, but like I just never found the point where I'm like, oh, here's the climax of the movie. And
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like there was like moments of rising action, but there wasn't really like a climax. There was like rising action and then resolution without the climax.
And that's problems like with kid movies, is like you can't really have anything risque or anything really bad because you don't want to upset the audience, which I've heard things from the movie Finding Dory where there's like really emotional scenes. Like, I've never seen the movie, but I mean, I heard a lot of people cry in that movie, and it's like,
I didn't cry, but there are emotional moments.
yeah. And this movie, like, it was a little emotional, but nothing to worry about. Because I like to worry in movies. I like to worry about the characters, but in this movie I knew nothing was going to happen to anyone because it was that basic.
So what do you think you're going to give this movie out of 10?
A 5.
A 5? Wow.
When you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of movies out there, anime movies, that would rank like a 2 or a 1. And some that would rank an 8 or a 9, but they're all just different. This one's just a very basic movie. Just watched it, went through it, didn't really have any emotional moments, no moments of getting really excited. It was just like, okay, it ended. Like, I knew this was gonna happen, so.
Maybe it's because I'm in such a good mood, and maybe it's because I took a week of watching movies, like a week break after Ghostbusters, and I saw some really awful animated movies, but I was gonna give this movie an 8. So I don't know like what the big gap of that is, but this is the kind of movie that it'll get your kids to shut up for like 2 hours,
And adults can play on their phone like they did throughout the whole movie.
I mean,
In our theater specifically.
there were some adults that were laughing. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are some adult jokes. You won't be bored.
Yeah, but just expect to have a crowded theater.
I would recommend you go see Finding Dory, though. So, if you want to get your calculator out, because you gave me a bitch number to work with, and let's do the consensus.
6.5.
Is it? Since 6. Okay, I guess 5 plus 8, that's 13. Yeah, 6.5. Good job, dude. Wow, I'm so proud of you. You got like, you had to
Math
retake Algebra
applications.
2 because you got such a low grade, and here you are showing me up on math. So,
'Cause I didn't give a shit.
with a consensus of 6.5
It's
out
like
of
I don't
10.
give a shit about this movie.
6.5 is our consensus. This movie is an ugly orgasm. Unfortunately, I would recommend you go see it on Redbox, but it is the kind of movie that you wouldn't regret seeing.
It's like a Russian candy cane. Look it up.
Jesus Christ. The reason it's an ugly orgasm is because you won't regret seeing this movie like you wouldn't regret sleeping with someone who has an ugly orgasm. So with that being said, I'm Carrick and that's Matt, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.